Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm Hilmarie Hutchison, and today is a special episode as we're joined by a true leader in Canadian healthcare. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Shanil Ebrahim. With 20 years' experience under his belt, he has been a chief epidemiologist, bioethicist, researcher, a board member of non-profit organizations, and most recently, a partner leading Canada's largest healthcare consulting business as part of Deloitte. He was recently recognized as one of Canada's top 40 under 40, and with a PhD in clinical epidemiology, a wealth of experience, and a passion for innovation, Dr. Ebrahim is at the forefront of driving evidence-based strategies and implementations in healthcare. What an impressive resume. We can't wait to dive into his journey and insights. Shanil, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on the pod, Hilmarie.
To get started, let's go as far back as you can remember and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and your background.
So just a little about me. As you mentioned, I'm currently a partner at Deloitte, where I'm incredibly privileged to lead our national life sciences and healthcare consulting business in Canada. For those who might not be as familiar with Deloitte, it's the world's largest global professional services firm, and we offer a wide spectrum of services in consulting, audit, tax, financial advisory, and risk advisory. We have a global team of 400,000 professionals and a strong team of more than 14,000 in Canada alone. In my role, I oversee a pretty dynamic life sciences and healthcare consulting group of about 1,000 practitioners. And this group spans many areas, from crafting complex strategies for organizations, streamlining operations, to implementing cutting-edge AI, digital and health solutions. And it's all meant to enhance patient care. And we also have a large human capital businesses that prepares organizations for the future of the workforce. Now, what I'm most proud of in my work at Deloitte is that our mission is to make a tangible difference in the lives of our citizens, and it's also to strengthen and bolster the economy. And this is achieved through the partnerships that we have with healthcare organizations, where we tackle some of the most daunting challenges faced by the sector. And so that's my life at Deloitte. And then prior to Deloitte, I had some quite diverse experiences, all within healthcare. I was a clinical epidemiologist, a researcher, and a bioethicist. And my experience spanned across a few different countries, of course, Canada, as well as the US in the hospital sector. And I also had some stints in Switzerland and in the Netherlands. There, I served as a researcher and a faculty member at both Stanford and McMaster University. And I also have committed a lot of my time to serving not-for-profit boards, where I focus on senior housing and aiding children with disabilities. All of this to say, though, that at the heart of my endeavors, there's been a consistent theme. Of course, working in healthcare is one of them, but it's specifically working with underserved and vulnerable populations, whether I'm involved in mental health, end-of-life care, or aiding children in critical care settings. My aim, I would say, has always been to drive better outcomes and make meaningful impacts on the lives of citizens, regardless of my role in the healthcare landscape. So that's a bit about me and my journey.
Wow. Again, a fantastic resume. You've certainly done a lot. Let's go even further back. Growing up, where did you grow up? What was the dream when you were growing up?
I grew up in Saudi Arabia and spent the first 9 years of my life there, and moved to Canada when I was 9 years old, and primarily lived in Toronto during that time. It's an interesting question that you have around what was my dreams. I don't know if there was a specific one. My dad was an engineer, and he also had a couple of businesses. I didn't know if I was going to follow in the footsteps of my dad or not. I did like the fact that he was involved in a profession that was about creation. Him being an engineer, that is. He was also an entrepreneur in terms of owning businesses. So I was attracted to it. I don't know if I would say I was going to follow in his footsteps. What I did get attracted to at an early age, this was in high school, was in computers and in technology. And I did always find it fascinating. And at that time, there was a whirlwind of activity happening in computer science and in technology. Initially, I started going down that path. But at the same time, I also ended up taking some courses in life sciences and healthcare, specifically with biology, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. And I started slowly migrating towards that path. And then it was in university when I did quite a few courses in kinesiology and in psychology. And during that time is where I delved into bioethics during a course I was taking in undergrad. And that led me to delve a little bit deeper into bioethics and end of life care. And I started working alongside the professor I had then in bioethics. And that's where I started getting into healthcare. And then that morphed into a few different paths within healthcare that I see today.
Excellent. Before we go any further, could you please explain to our audience what epidemiology is? Is there a simple definition for lay people of epidemiology?
Good question. This is one of the fields that typically a lot of people have a hard time defining what it is. And I would say during the pandemic is where people really started getting much more exposure to epidemiologists. What clinical epidemiology is, it's all about the study of patterns in health, disease, and outcomes within specific diseases or specific populations. And what I mean by specific diseases, it could be an infectious disease, it could be cardiology, it could be diabetes. And within all of these big type of diseases, there's a lot of patterns in terms of how we can better serve populations. What we do in epidemiology is that we try to identify the risk factors for those diseases and we evaluate the effectiveness of different treatments and interventions that can help those different facets and those risk factors of those diseases. And that's what clinical epidemiology is in a nutshell. At the heart of what we do in clinical epidemiology is work with a vast amount of data to be able to ensure that we are able to find the right treatments for the right type of patients and provide it at the right time.
Well, I hope that was simple enough. It still sounds complicated, but you're taking large numbers of data to understand and find solutions for populations and for people. In your work with provincial authorities and hospitals, what are some of the common challenges you encounter and how do you address them?
I work a lot with provincial authorities and hospitals. As you can imagine, working with these provincial authorities and hospitals brings its own set of challenges. One major issue we often encounter is the complexity of healthcare systems in general because they're large, they're intricate, they make quick changes quite difficult. And it doesn't matter if you're in Canada, in the US, or any other parts of the world. This is a common challenge that we have. And to manage this, we usually start with small, manageable projects that can show quick wins. And this approach, helps demonstrate the value of larger changes and makes it easier to implement wider reforms over time instead of taking like a big bang monolithic type of approach. That's one. Second is, I would say, the fragmentation of data. In many cases, patient information is spread across different systems that don't communicate well with each other. And our approach is to work towards better data integration, creating systems where information can be easily and securely shared. And this ensures that everyone involved in patient care has the information they need when they need it as well. The third thing I would say is also around budget constraints. This is very common across health systems, and it's a huge, huge challenge because healthcare resources are often limited, which means we have to be smart about how we use them. We focus on finding innovative, cost-effective solutions as a result that can deliver big impacts. And this might involve introducing new technologies like telehealth, for example, where we can reach more patients without the need for expensive infrastructure, or we streamline existing processes to make them efficient. And we then take the money that we saved and repurpose them into innovative type of challenges as well. So that's another way we do it. The big thing about overcoming any of these challenges, at least from my experience, is that we need to collaborate and partner more with each other. I strongly believe that bringing together all stakeholders from different parts of the healthcare system, whether it's clinicians, administrators, pharmacies, pharma companies, lab and diagnostics, consultants, bringing them all together is very crucial. And it's through this collaboration and this partnership where we can truly maximize the leverage of the whole ecosystem, I call it, and we can find the most effective solutions to the challenges we face. Ultimately, in all of this, our goal is always the same. It's about improving patient care. It's about making healthcare systems more efficient and responsive. It is challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding as well. And knowing that we're making that type of difference is what keeps me going.
That makes absolute sense. To not be working in silos or trying to do your own thing, but to rather work together with others is far more benefit and far more success in working together. Can you maybe share an example of a challenging project that you've worked on that had a significant impact on public or private health sector outcomes?
A challenging project I've worked on with significant impact. So one project really stands out to me, and And I've got to be a bit careful how I talk about it because it's still under wraps. It involves some truly groundbreaking work in cancer. So we're partnering with a pharmaceutical company that's on the cusp of launching a new cancer treatment. And it's one of those rare moments, Hilmarie, where in healthcare, you feel like you're on the brink of something truly revolutionary. And this treatment is based on something called CAR T therapy, which essentially is where you take a patient's immune cells, we take it out of their body, we genetically modify it in a lab to better recognize and attack cancer cells, and then we put it back into the patient's body to attack the cancer. So as you can tell, this has a potential to not just treat but possibly cure certain types of cancer, or at the very least, keep them in remission much longer than anything else out there. And what we're doing is helping the company roll out this treatment in a way that's focused entirely on the patient. So this means figuring out everything from who could benefit from this drug the most to how we can make the process of getting the treatment as smooth as possible for patients. And it involves setting up this whole platform that connects patients, healthcare providers, and the company to make sure that everyone's on the same page from start to finish, which means from getting patients signed up through the treatment process to the follow-up care. And of course, something like this is pretty monumental and it's no small task by any means. So it's about making sure that when this drug is out there in the market, it can reach the people who need it without any unnecessary hurdles, which we know from our healthcare system that we sometimes put these barriers and hurdles along the way that can create friction in terms of access to the drug. So it's about ensuring that patients not only get access to this potentially life-saving treatment, but that they're supported in every step of the way. And for me, being part of this project has been incredibly humbling because it's a reminder of why we do what we do, not just in healthcare consulting, but just in healthcare overall. Because at the end of the day, I'm in consulting, but it's not about strategies or technology. It's about the patients. It's about making a real difference in their lives. And to be involved in something that could change the game for cancer treatment, that is a privilege. And that's the type of work that makes all of these challenges quite worth it.
I can only imagine. What an amazing experience. And as you say, so rewarding to be part of this kind of project that has such far-reaching consequences for so many people. You mentioned earlier about using and introducing new technologies. What role do you believe digital health technologies will play in the future of population health management?
Oh, digital health technologies are absolute game changers in the future of population health management and in healthcare in general. See, the beauty of digital health is its ability to connect, analyze, and simplify healthcare. And we're talking about a world where wearable devices, telehealth, and AI-driven diagnostics work together seamlessly to keep us healthy. To me, it's like imagining a smartwatch, which, a lot of people put on their wrist nowadays as more of a fashion statement sometimes. These, to me, aren't just there to count your steps or do basic things that you see in the health app that on your iPhone. It's one where we can truly predict a health issue before it becomes serious, which can alert both yourself and your doctor. And to me, that's actually happening today. So, Hilmarie, I'm going to give you a very real example from just my life where just a few weeks back, my wife was quite sick. We initially thought it was a bad cold or at worst the flu, and she was running a fever. She wasn't initially concerned as she tested negative for COVID as well. But while she was resting, trying to recover, her smartwatch, she has an Apple Watch, it alerted her about her heart rate, which was alarmingly high, spiking up to 157 beats per minute while she was just lying in bed. My heart rate doesn't go to 157 when I'm running full speed. We knew that this didn't seem right at all, and she went to the ER. And there, it turned out she had pneumonia and severe dehydration, and she was hospitalized for a few days. The doctors felt she came in early, which helped her in her recovery, which, by the way, is still ongoing today. But since then, she has said it many times, thank God for my smartwatch. And honestly, so do I, because this was a vivid reminder of what this technology can do. And there are other technologies like this that can be life-changing, like telehealth. Especially during the pandemic, it really knocked down the barriers of access to care, where it made it easier for people in remote or underserved areas to get the help when they need it. We know we're just scratching the surface because as these technologies evolve, we'll see them playing a crucial role in managing chronic diseases, reducing hospital readmissions, even in preventing diseases from occurring in the first place. In this future of healthcare, digital health technologies will be at the forefront, making healthcare more proactive, more personalized, more accessible. And this is how we move from a reactive healthcare system that we have today. It doesn't matter which country you're in, you have a very sick care system, to one that I feel will eventually move to sooner rather than later, where it's all about preventative, proactive, and the right care that empowers all of the citizens. And being part of this shift and to help it drive it forward is very exciting. And the impact we can have on improving health outcomes on a large scale and making lives better, that's what this whole game is about.
Thank you so much for sharing your wife's example and such a personal experience and how technology was able to make a difference. And certainly, as you said, technology will help in preventative and proactive diagnosis and treatment rather than, because oftentimes, especially when it comes to heart conditions, knowing early on can make all the difference between saving someone's life and being too late to make that difference.
Absolutely. And if you really think about it, it's such a peace of mind. Anyone who has elderly parents, for example, if they have a smartwatch and they tend to have a fall or something happens to them, that can trigger your loved one and the emergency to send a dispatch immediately to your house. That is very comforting because, our parents always ask us, call us every day. You never know what's going to end up happening to me. Even if I call my mom or my dad for 10 minutes a day, every day, I may miss them in that 23 hours and 50 minutes for the remainder of the day. That's what a smartwatch does. It helps you 24/7. And if something does happen, it can actually trigger the right people at the right time. And that's a huge, huge peace of mind.
Absolutely. Let's talk about children. I know that you are involved with the Children's Treatment Network. What advancements would you like to see in supporting children and youth with long-term disabilities and developmental needs?
I've really enjoyed my work with the Children's Treatment Network, where we have the privilege of serving more than 29,000 kids and youth with disabilities. And based on my involvement with the Children's Treatment Network, I envision advancements that further empower children and youth with long-term disabilities and development needs. And what I specifically like to see is greater access to innovative therapeutic technologies that can be personalized for each child's unique challenges because it's so different across the board. As well, I'd like to see us enhancing educational resources to support inclusive learning environments and also expanding community programs to foster social inclusion, which is very, very important in the communities that we live. And ultimately, everything we do here is about creating a supportive ecosystem that nurtures children's growth, their resilience, and their independence, which means, coming back to my earlier point about collaborations, we need to strengthen collaborations between healthcare providers, educators, and families, which is key to achieving these goals, ensuring that every child has the opportunity to thrive.
Let's change directions a little bit. As someone who has served on the boards of not-for-profit organizations, how do you balance your professional commitments with your dedication to community service?
I would say that balancing professional commitments with community service is something I've come to see as less of a balancing act and more of an integrated part of my life. For me, it's all about finding synergy or enrichment, I would say, between my work, my personal life, and my desire to give back to the community. And so first off, I view my community service not as a separate duty, but as an extension of my life in general, whether it is work or personal. To me, it's all part of the same construct, and insights I gain from serving on boards of not-for-profit organizations enrich my understanding and approach to healthcare consulting. And it's a two-way street. The leadership and strategic thinking required in my professional role are invaluable to these organizations I serve, and the perspectives I gain from my community service on these boards inform and enhance my work and essentially my life as well. And for me, what's important is that I need to really manage my time. And anyone who knows me personally knows that I prioritize and meticulously, which means that I need to ensure that my commitments to my personal and professional responsibilities and community service are met without compromise. And here, boundaries are actually quite important because it's not about, using boundaries to separate those aspects from each other, but to ensure that whatever I do, I'm able to stay fully present, whether it's at work, my personal life, and my community commitments. I need to make sure that I set boundaries in a way that I'm able to focus on the tasks at hand. Things like technology play a big role here where it allows me to stay connected and efficient, whether I'm in a boardroom or working remotely or on a not-for-profit project or in my personal life. And beyond boundaries and time management, it's also about continuously revisiting my purpose because I'm deeply committed to making a difference and also being a better version of myself with every passing day. And this can be whether it's helping healthcare organizations navigate challenges or contributing to the mission of not-for-profit. And this is the type of purpose and this is the type of passion, I would say, that drives me, energizes me, and makes it possible to fulfill both my professional and my dedication to community services. Ultimately, I would say that support systems that I have in place are also extremely crucial, whether it's the support and love that I get from my family or the integrated mission that my colleagues at Deloitte see daily, or the collaborative spirit, I would say, that my teams have in the not-for-profit sector. Being surrounded by people who share my values and commitments makes all the difference. And it's the collective effort that enables me to contribute meaningfully in all the arenas that I just mentioned.
Wow, a lot of nuggets in there. Being fully present to allow you to focus on whatever you're working on, that's excellent. But to be able to reach that being present situation, you mentioned time management, setting boundaries, and having a good support system in place. Really excellent tips. Thank you for sharing that. Congratulations on being recognized as one of Canada's top 40 under 40. That's quite an achievement. What advice would you give to young professionals aspiring to make a significant impact in healthcare?
Yeah, thank you so much. Being recognized as one of Canada's top 40 under 40, by the way, was extremely humbling and has also been very touching when people reached out with thoughtful words, and also to read some of the notes I received from all walks of my life. And what it has done, it's reinforced that support system that I just talked about, which I've received throughout my life and my career. And I'm extremely grateful for that. But to your question, the advice I'd offer a young professional, whether you're in healthcare or not, is that first and foremost, you have to build an unwavering belief in yourself. It's crucial to recognize your potential and push beyond the boundaries of what you think is possible. I've learned that multiple times in my life, so that's very important. Second is being open to experiences. It's important to seize opportunities and immerse yourself fully in each learning moment. And in every walks of life, doesn't matter what role you take on, you'll have some good opportunities or projects or role. Sometimes you'll also have some bad ones or what you perceive as bad. In my belief, I feel like you learn from every single one and you learn to take something away. And lastly, it's about embracing every challenge as a chance to grow. I feel like you have to make sure that no stone is unturned in your own quest. And this may sound like that I'm talking about a path of perfection, but it's not. It's about that relentless pursuit of excellence and reaching for the extraordinary. And to me, whether you are in healthcare and trying to make a significant difference, or you're trying to make a significant difference in any field, it's always filled with uncertainties and risks. But it's your openness to taking these chances and your commitment to continuous learning that will define your path. And making a lasting impact isn't just about the goals you achieve, but it's about the lives you touch and how you contribute to those lives. And striving for those meaningful, positive changes needs you to look beyond the ordinary to make a real difference. So that's some of the advice that I would just have for any aspiring young professional.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing those tips. So to have confidence in yourself, push yourself, embrace challenges, be committed to learning, and all of this will help you to grow, not trying for perfection, but to reach the highest level that you can reach. I love that. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I'll ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Sure.
One word to describe yourself.
Purpose-driven.
Okay, and one word to describe your leadership style.
Impactful.
What's your go-to stress relief activity?
Family.
Lovely. Are you team iOS or Android?
iOS all the way.
What's your current favorite podcast or TV show?
Dangerous Ideas by Sean Kanungo, who is a former Deloitte colleague who went to do some amazing things. It's just the first one that stood out.
What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Weirdly, the first word that comes into my head is plan. I plan my day and my week religiously.
Okay, so you don't just wake up and wonder what you'll do next. Everything is planned ahead of time.
Yep, in some way, some form, even in times of uncertainty.
Perfect. Thank you very much for playing along. That was easy enough. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you about your green pill moment. What was your green pill moment, the action or event that was the turning point for you or your career?
So I've been incredibly fortunate to have many defining moments in my career, from doing my PhD to joining Stanford to jumping into consulting to overcoming just a series of challenges that I've had throughout my career. But when I look back, there's one moment that stands out as my turning point. And I'm going to go back to my first year as a PhD student at McMaster University. And during that time, I applied for a prestigious scholarship, one that seemed like a long shot than a real possibility. And I looked at it as one that was designed for the top of the heap in academia and research. It was the kind of thing you apply for with the hope that you may get it, but you always manage your expectation given its reputation for being extremely competitive. So a few months later, I was in Nice in south of France with my wife before we got married, and we were grabbing a bite before heading off to whatever we had planned that afternoon. Funny enough, we were actually at McDonald's, which is, I know, not very south of France-like. Anyways, my wife stepped away for a moment to go to the restroom, I believe, and I decided to play with my phone and happened to check my email. And I saw the subject line on my screen, scholarship decision or something of that note. I opened it, fully bracing myself for the standard "thank you for applying, but ... type of line. Instead, what I saw was congratulations, and it fully caught me off guard. Not only had I won the scholarship, but I was ranked second in the country. I'm usually the kind of person who doesn't easily get swayed by highs or lows, but this news genuinely had me in shock. When my wife came back to the table, she found me completely taken back. She initially thought something was wrong given my reaction, but as soon as I shared the news, her worry turned into laughter and she wasn't surprised. She's always had faith in me. She's always been my biggest champion. But for me, even though I didn't realize it then, that was a moment that truly shifted my mentality. And see, it wasn't about the scholarship itself. Sure, I know others since then who has received the same scholarship, and in hindsight, it may just seem like another accomplishment. However, that moment, irrespective of what the award or the milestone was, it was about understanding that I might have been setting unconscious limits on my own potential without even realizing it. See, I've always known, or generally known, I would say, that I was capable, I was smart, even successful in a conventional sense. And I really don't want to sound immodest by any means, Hail Murray, but this was different because perhaps until that point, I was satisfied being in the, let's say, the top 10 or 20%, by the way, is very commendable, and I don't want anyone to think otherwise. I started thinking to myself, what if I could truly be the best in whatever I do and break through those barriers? And from that moment on, something shifted inside me where my approach to work, my ambition, my very perception of my own potential underwent a huge shift. And I started aiming not just to excel, but truly pushing beyond my limits and seeing how far I could go. And I really started playing the long game. And I went to work every day with the unwavering belief that I was going to make significant strides with every passing year, hell, with just even every passing day, I would say. And eventually I got to this point where I even stopped competing with others. And I was just competing with myself because I really felt that no one was going to set a higher bar on me than myself. And this is the mindset that drove me and has pushed me not only in my career, but in every facet of my life, whether it's in my career as a father, a husband, board member that we talked about, or my contribution to society. It was not about just striving to improve. It was a drive about getting stronger with time. And that's why that moment in France was so pivotal, or to borrow your words, a green pill moment, because it was the moment that I decided to challenge, every boundary that I was putting on myself and just started adopting that infinite mindset that helped me achieve much greater things.
What an amazing experience and what an amazing moment for you. While you were talking about that, it reminded me of that Wayne Gretzky quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you do not take." By making that decision, by going for that scholarship, it changed everything for you and you stopped setting unconscious limits on yourself. I love it. What a fantastic journey you've had since then as well. I have so enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure our listeners are also going to be so inspired by listening to your compelling story. Could you please tell our listeners where they can find and follow you? And we'll also put this in the show notes.
If you want to know a little bit more about me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. That's where I typically hang out. And you can always see different posts and different recordings or conferences or anything that I'm speaking at as well. And I could always be reached there. So that would probably be the best way.
Shanil, thank you so much for being with us today. I have so enjoyed this and I wish you continued success on your remarkable journey.
Thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, Marie, and of course, really appreciate you having me on this pod and looking forward to doing this again.
Fantastic. Until next time, folks, stay curious and keep chasing those inspiring stories.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.